Hey everyone, and welcome to our first episode of our series of how to make your clothes fit and adjust them to your actual size and shape. I'm Sarah from the Sewing Retreat, and we sell all organic sewing products and offer a pattern cutting course as well. And then we have the lovely Victoria.
Hello, so I'm Victoria and I'm from The Perfect Fit, which is an online garment technology course, and I work with making clothes fit for production and for startups and for yourself.
So we're going to be taking you today through our how to measure yourself, and I've also provided in the links below, you'll find this PDF, which you can print out and you can write on to record all your measurements, or you can just use it on your iPad, which I do, and then just record your measurements as you go along. We're not going to write them down today, but when you would take your measurements, then you need to write them down so you can remember them later. Okay, so we're going to start by showing you a few tips.
So Sarah's going to put high heels on because that will change your posture. So you need to know with the end use of your garment. So if you're going to be wearing heels, you need to obviously make sure that the length's going to be correct. And if you're going to be in flats, then it's more just about how you stand when you're wearing shoes.
So you'll see when I put the heels on, my whole posture is changing, and the way I stand and the way your bum sticks out changes as well. So if you are going to wear heels with your garment that you're making, then make sure when you're measuring you're wearing heels as well, or if you're not going to, then don't bother wearing the heels when you're measuring.
It's also important to wear those same shoes every time you fit it. So if you are making toiles, make sure you're wearing the right shoes.
So as well as making sure you're wearing the right shoes when you're measuring yourself, you also need to make sure you've got the right underwear on. Because obviously if you're making sportswear, then you'll want a sports bra on, because that's probably what you'll wear underneath. Whereas if you're wearing a dress, you may want like a push-up bra or a non-push-up bra. So make sure you're wearing the right underwear underneath your garments for when you're going to be wearing them.
And bear in mind padding, because obviously that is going to change what your actual measurements are. So if you're going to be wearing a padded bra, measure yourself with a padded bra on.
Okay, so now we're going to run through all of the measurements that you need to take, and you can use the PDF printable to fill in your measurements along the way.
So Sarah's going to start with her bust. Now it's really important that you take in a deep breath, let that out, and then take a half breath in. And then make sure that you can slide a finger easily around, because you want to be able to breathe and you don't want to make any measurement exactly tight fitting to your skin, because you won't be able to move.
And just also make sure that it's not dropping at the back. So it should be above your bra if you've got one on at the moment. When you're measuring, not lower, because otherwise you're adding measurements to it. So just make sure it's in the right place when you're measuring at the same time.
Okay, we're then going to do nape to waist, which is important for zip lengths. It's important for you to know the length of the back pattern piece. So if you lean your head forward, you'll be able to feel the top of your spine. That is the position that you want to start from. But when you actually take the measurement, you must keep your head up, as Sarah's doing now. Otherwise, you're going to be, again, adding length that isn't there. Perfect. We're then going to do waist to hips. Again, it might help if you find to tie a bit of string around your waist so that the waist isn't going to move position at any point while you're taking these measurements.
And you can also use the string as a guideline. So if you put it around your waist, then you can use it for the measurement we just did, and for this measurement to be a guide as to where your waist is.
Okay. We're then going to move on to your arm circle, which is a bit of a tricky measurement to take, but it's super important for anything with sleeves and even without sleeves, because you need to know where your armhole is going to stop. And you have to be really careful not to measure exactly tight to your actual armhole, otherwise you literally just won't be able to move. And Sarah's going to demonstrate you need to relax your body.
So you can just get your tape measure in place, make sure it's where your shoulder seam would be on the top of your shoulder, and then relax your arm. And then you can use the other hand to move the tape measure a bit to get it into the right place, so you have the right measurement for your arm cycle.
We're now going to measure our neck. This can be as tight as you want it for a woven garment, so that you know when to put the zip in or buttons, depending on what clothes you're using, or how tight you can make it with a stretch garment so that you can still pull it over your head.
And just make sure, again, it's not like low at the back. So you want it to be the right place for where you want your garment to be. A good guide is to sort of imagine how you'd have like a shirt, a proper fitted shirt to be, as to where you'd want your neckline to be.
Yeah. And the next measurement is your shoulder.
So you go from the top of where you've just done your measurement from here, your neckline, down to the top shoulder seam here, and you can look to the side whilst you're doing it, but when you're taking your measurement, make sure to relax and just do it at the edge here and use your finger as your guide, because you can feel it on your shoulder.
Perfect. And then the next measurement is your across shoulder or back width, depending on your terminology.
So again, you're going from your shoulder seam to shoulder seam, and make sure you're relaxed when you're taking your measurement, not got your shoulders up because it will alter the length. So make sure you're relaxed when you're doing that. And you can look again from the side to the other side. But then when you're taking the measurement, make sure you're looking forward.
And bear in mind that it's quite normal for one shoulder to be higher than the other, especially in women from where we carry our handbags. So on an asymmetric garment, it's really important to notice whether there is actually a difference. But your pattern should almost always be symmetrical if you're making a symmetrical garment. We're now going to look at darts on the bust. Now, we could do a whole series on darts, and we probably will. So just bear with us. We're just going to cover the most basic ones for right now.
So you can either take your dart, depending on where you have it normally on your garment or your pattern, from the edge here to your highest bust point, or you can do it from the top here if that's where you have it on most of your patterns or garments, down to here. So you can do both if you want, but like Victoria says, we could do a whole episode on this. So just take one of those for now and make sure you record which one you've taken.
Okay. Then we're going to measure our wrists. And again, depending on what fabric you're using, on a jersey garment, sometimes the measurement of the actual garment might be smaller, but on a woven measurement, obviously it needs to at least be 1 centimeter completely bigger than your wrist so that you can fit your hand through it.
Okay.
I'm going to do sleeve length, which is from your shoulder seam down to your relaxed arm. Like the sleeve length depends on how you want it to be, obviously, but you want to go from, if you want a full length sleeve, you'll have to go about 2 centimeters below sort of your wrist bone.
And you're again taking the measurement from the top of your shoulder seam again. Make sure your arm is relaxed, and you can see here I've got the tape measure in between my first 2 fingers, so it makes sure it's in the right place. And then you can use those 2 fingers to hold your tape measure, and then move your arm and you can read it off. So if you just bring the tape measure back up to here, then you can measure it off from here. It'll be in the right place.
Perfect. Then the next measurement is your bicep. And again, this is important not to be skin tight to your bicep. You need to be able to lay it flat against your body, which usually will widen your bicep. You also need to be able to move your arm freely.
And you can see when it's too tight, because you can see it like cuts into my arm. Okay.
And we're going to do the same, but for your elbow, because it's standard that your elbow would be a little bit smaller. You can do forearm as well, but we're just covering the basics for today, and you don't need to worry too much about forearm, mid-arm length, unless that's where your sleeve finishes.
And just make sure when you're doing your elbow is actually relaxed, not like this, because it alters the depth measurement a lot.
Yeah, but if it is going to be a woven fabric, you need to allow for that. You need to be able to bend your elbow, so just take that into consideration. Perfect. We're now going to move back onto the body and do the waist. which the same principles as the bust. You need to take a deep breath in, breath out, half breath in, and make sure you can run your finger freely around. Sarah's also going to hop on a chair to show that you really need to make sure you've got enough room to sit, because there's nothing worse than sitting down and being cut in half by your face.
So you can see it's not digging into me, whereas if I had it really tight before, it would be digging in, and you can see. So just make sure you can sit down in it too.
Next measurement is your top hip, which in industry standards is 10 centimeters lower than your waist, but when you're taking it for yourself, you just go with wherever feels comfortable to you.
So your top hip takes into consideration, like you can see here, my stomach goes out a little bit. So that's why we take this measurement, because it takes into consideration the curve of your body. Whereas if you just take the hip, you can see it's flatter here than it is up here. So you just want to make sure you take into consideration that curve when you're taking your measurement.
And again, make sure you can move a finger around freely, because that time of the month, our women's bodies fluctuate. So you need to make sure you've got room in there and it's not skin tight. And the next measurement is the widest point, so your low hip.
So around your bum, which is kind of side too. And again, don't make it skin tight, because when you sit down, then it will be very uncomfortable.
Great. And the next measurement is your thigh, where the same rules apply as for your bicep, for your elbow. You need to make sure it sits on your skin, but it's not cutting into your skin.
And try and make sure you've got your leg relaxed, because obviously if you're engaging your muscles, then that will change the shape of your leg too. So you can see that it's not digging in at all, and I can fit my finger in a little and move it around a little bit as well.
Lovely. We're now going to do waist to knee. So if you have got your guide rope string, this is really helpful just to sort of make sure that it's always in the same place. Turn yourself into a breath maker's dummy. And again, Sarah can show, if you bend over to take any of these measurements and then stand up, they're going to be completely different. So make sure that you are stood up and relaxed and as natural as you can be for each measurement. Okay, then waist to the floor. So this is where heels again are going to be important, or for length, so that you know where it's going to be.
And you can most tape measures only start a centimetre in, so you can sort of stand on the end of the tape measure to make sure you've got the right length, and then just relax your posture and use the tape measure upside down, so then you can see the measurements up here, whereas if they're on the floor you can't see them.
And also note that for all of these measurements, there's seam allowance. So don't make your pattern exactly to your measurements. You need to add on the seam allowance. Okay, the last measurement is your ankle. Okay, you can use and carve measurements if you need to, but we're just going to cover the easier parts for you.
So again, you don't want it too tight, so just make sure it's not squashing you. I don't know if you can see on there.
Can't see on here, but Sarah is recording off another camera, so we'll be able to see it there.
Yeah. So that's how to measure yourself, and if there's any more specific measurements, then we'll show you how to do them in our more specific episodes that we're going to be doing. So next week we're going to be looking at tops and how to alter them to fit your size, or how to alter your toiles to make them so they're perfect to your body measurements, rather than just like a standard UK 8, 10, 12, and they'll actually fit you properly, and how to adjust them. So if you do have any garments that you'd like us to look at, or you've got any questions, then just write them below or send us a message on Instagram, and then we'll be able to answer them in our next episode.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.